Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Thank you very much for coming to this December installment of Poetic License. Each one of you is double plus awesome for being here, and I want to say happy holidays to everybody. Happy belated Thanksgiving, happy early Christmas. God, could you please turn that back around? Thanks. I'm going to read two pieces, and then I'm going to talk about, well, they're all about New Scars Publications book releases. I run Scars Publications. It does 2 literary magazines, and so I thought for those I would start with one poem from each of them. I think the first one I'm going to start with is, which one? I'm going to do this one. This one's cc&d magazine. I run 2 magazines. cc&d is from 1993. Down in the Dirt is the other one, started in 2000. They're both available from Scars.tv. John F. McMullen has been published in both. A few of you in here may have been published in one or the other as well. But I'm going to read one piece from the December 2020 issue of cc&d, which is released through Amazon, and this one is called Reptile Lust. Titles come from accepted things within the copy, and I believe there is a long story that appears in 2 or 3 issues of this called Reptile Lust, so I thought, I'm going to get a cool looking lizard on the cover and have that for a book for you guys. But in that, and in my bookmark, I've got my COVID-19 pass test, though nobody's here, so you don't have to worry about getting anything. But I'll read one piece from this, and it is called Uprising for Revolution, and it was written on the 16th of December, which was the anniversary of the Boston Tea Party. When sentiments run high, there's revolution in the air. We feel we're at a tipping point. We don't know what else to do. Did I feel that way, exasperated with politics, hearing the Tea Party represented a more constitutional way of government? Because that's when I made a point to collect my tea leaves for weeks and dump them into the Chicago River downtown on April 15th. Tax Day. Looking back, I may not have chosen to support the party's movement, but I did like the idea of protesting when I saw something wrong, leaving my doctor's offices post-surgery so I could do a little protesting of my own. We may not fully understand the reasons for the Boston Tea Party uprising, propping up British tea companies and heavily taxing colonists in 1773, at a time that they coined the phrase taxation without representation, back in the day before this country became a collection of nation states. But a lot of Americans still understand the need for a revolution, for something, anything to change the way things are run in the United States. Not enough instill change through our vote. So we dump our tea leaves into the Chicago River, or quit supporting a foreign or current government, which is when we start our trek on those stepping stones to start our own revolution and incite a real uprising. Little thing for on the anniversary of that. Thank you, Dan. I see clapping. Thank you, thank you. There, that was your representation for cc&d for this month. I'm done with that one. And this next one is for Down in the Dirt magazine, which started originally as a section within cc&d back in '94, but it started as known in 2000. This is titled from somebody else's work, and it's called Spartacus, and it's got some, classic, really old image of, I believe, Spartacus dying or something, but it was just cool looking thing. Spartacus, that is a new issue of Down in the Dirt, and I am sharing one poem that relates to Christmas for you guys from this book, and it is called Exploit the Island, which was actually written on Christmas Day for the 1643 day that Christmas Island was actually discovered. So that's what this is called. It's called Exploit the Island. I've remembered this Depeche Mode instrumental song. It's titled Christmas Island, and unlike mellow or somber tunes, it belted out a loud processional music with a strong beat, and it was almost like an instrumental call to action. This song wasn't on any albums. It's only a tune that the die-hard fans back in the day would know or even like. But the Christmas Island song that's been in my head is the one by Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters. Sure, the Andrews Sisters didn't originally sing it with him, but I know Bing's crooning with all of his Christmas songs. And then this little ditty sings of spending Christmases across the sea, coconuts on the trees, and presents coming in on canoe. And sure, Bing may have released this in the 50s, well after the original, but looking back, it confuses me when the only Christmas island I know of, off the top of my head, is a tiny place in the Pacific that was deserted twice and then used as a nuclear testing site. So really, it doesn't sound like a true vacation retreat. But the thing is, the Christmas island I know was discovered on Christmas Eve. It was by the British, which kind of seems like a weird reason to call it Christmas Island. And then I discovered that there is another Christmas island, discovered on Christmas Day by a European in 1643. So maybe this is the tropical resort being crooned about. Now, the Christmas island discovered on Christmas Eve by Britain is a small island in the Pacific Ocean, while the Christmas island discovered on Christmas Day by Europeans is a small island in the Indian Ocean. But after that, they start sounding more and more similar. Both islands are populated by only a few thousand people, and both were exploited for annexation until countries came to exploit the island for their military. Oh, get this. For this island, it first came when the Japanese were attacking it in World War II. Now this tiny island then became a harbor for refugees, which had very few beaches and so little climate change in the southern edge of the equatorial region. So in some ways, this Christmas island was a beautiful place for people who needed to escape an unjust war, with a rainforest and animals differentiated from anything you could find on the Galapagos Islands along the equator. But the only real resource was phosphate mining, where the phosphate was extracted from guano, which is the accumulation of excrement of seabirds and bats. And who says that nature couldn't help us out with our mankind needs? So no, this Christmas, or this Chinese/Malaysian/Australian island, now under Australia's rule, which doesn't really please the locals, may not be the Bing Crosby vacation retreat. But during this one time in war, Christmas Island was a paradise for those who were truly in need. It's so strange looking back on history and learning about, like, oh, there's this tiny island, and then Britain and the United States, we try to name claim to it, and then we desert it, and then we say, hey, wait, we could use it for nuclear testing, or we could use it for this, but at least with this one island, it was actually a place where refugees could go during the war, which was a really cool thing. So I guess that could be, in a way, a Christmas island, I hope. But there's your Christmas thing for me. But what I wanted to share is that...
You're a wonderful reader. Wonderful.
Well, thank you. And that's a fun thing about looking for things for different events. You come up with stuff all through the year. Scars Publications does not only the magazines, they do collection books, annual ones, and in a few days, because we're going through another round of testing, we will have the date books for 2020, which means you've got 1/2 of a week on one side of the page, which you guys can't see from this, but you can see the lines indicating days of the week, and then poetry for the poetry review date book, or flash fiction for the flash fiction date book. So these things will be out because they're going through one more round of proofs. I've got the proof copies. Hopefully by tomorrow they'll be totally cleared. But I thought I would read one thing from the Poetry Review Datebook. I know that the man that's sitting here in the room with me, Mr. John Yatko, has a poem in this. I'm going to ask him to step in. Yay! Give it up for John. Yay. Yeah, Louis says hi. He says hi. And after he reads one poem, then I'll hand it over to John F. McMullen and ask him to read 3. And I'm hoping that one of them will be the poem that he has in this book as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and that's a fun thing about being the publisher. I can say, oh, I'm going to pick, I have no idea, I'm going to choose something throughout the year, but I'm going to pick something of mine on the week of my birthday. So in the middle of June, I've got this poem, and I think this is one that Louise has heard and really liked. And I think she even read. And that is a poem that is called Us Actually Touching. I heard a physicist explain that when two solid objects are pressed together, they never actually touch. I can't imagine it, but maybe, because electrons repel, all objects remain one molecule apart. I wonder if this is why, when I see you and when we embrace, I want to hold you tighter and tighter, because I want to defy the laws of physics and feel that connection with you as long as I possibly can. Is this why, whenever we embrace, I want my face at your neck so that I can inhale you deeply? I breathe you in. Because I want to experience you with all of my senses. I want our molecules to intermingle. I want us to actually touch. That was Us Actually Touching in there. Because I happen to know this guy, John Yatko, because he's my husband, and he had something accepted in cc&d magazine. I said, well, put it on your birthday week. So I opened it up to you in March. I'm going to ask John Yatko for the one time, he's not going to be on the rotation, I'm just scooching him in, to read his poem, and then it'll get over to John F. McMullen. John, would you like to step in? John Yatko, would you like to step in here? So hold on a quick second. Come on in. Oh, wait, yes, wait for me to get out of the way. Sorry. Now I'm going to have to lean like this so that you could see. He has to get to his seat now.
Yeah, she has a nice little school chair that was laying on the street somewhere, and she decided she wanted to pick it up. We brought it home, cleaned it up, and we have an old school desk.
Yeah. And you can lift the desk up. You can see a little bit of it here. You can lift the desk up on my school desk.
A new school desk. It doesn't have a place to store your books underneath it.
True.
This one, I guess because it's deer season here in Texas, and I will read this one. It's called The Deer. I had done this many times before, but this time it was different. I scrubbed my skin to conceal my scent, grabbed my gear, dressed in camouflage. I took up my position just off the trail. I was leaning back against a tree, waiting for sunrise. In the cool autumn breeze, I listened to the sound of the woods. I listened for deer. A fox walked by and didn't see me. A good sign. The sun rose. A few doe walked by. I knew a buck should be following. Coming up out of the ravine, I heard the sound of a single deer. The deer came into view. I pressed the stock into my shoulder. Looking through the lens, I studied the buck facing toward me. A nice 10-point. Its face was brown with a broad white chest. Still young, it hadn't yet learned to be cautious. It turned on the trail. A perfect shot. I centered it in the frame, remembering the rule of thirds. I adjusted my aim. I squeezed the trigger, heard the click and whir as the shutter opened, closed, and the film advanced to the next frame. The buck heard it too, watched as I lowered my camera. Slowly it approached, cautiously lowered its face to mine. I held my breath as it studied me, moving closer. It stopped, its nose almost touching mine. Its eyes were staring at mine just 6 inches away, possibly catching an image of me. What did it see? What did it think as it turned? What will it remember? It walked a few steps, sniffed the air, and turned toward the doe.
Clap in here. Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can scooch out.
I'm going to scooch out.
He's going to scooch out. Thank you very much, John. Now then, I'm going to mute myself because the next poet up would be John F. McMullen, and the poet on deck after that would be Glenn. So, John, take it away.
You're muted, John.
Unmute.
Give the date book in your hand, Janet. Turn to
turn to page 136, and I'm going to read the introduction. I'm going to turn it over to you to read the actual poem because of your wonderful style.
Oh my gosh.
This is called Gods, and I begin with a quote from the Christian theologian Hans Kung. Although the virgin birth cannot be understood as a historical biological event, it can be regarded as a meaningful symbol, at least for the time being. And that's from Hans Kung on being the Christian. Janet, read the poem.
Horus, an Ethiopian Sudanese god. Buddha, a Nepal god. Krishna, an Indian god. Zarathustra, an Iranian god. Hercules, a Greek god. Mithra, a Persian god. Dionysus, a Greek god. Thamus, a Babylonian god. Hermes, a Greek god. Adonis, a Phoenician god. All born of a virgin on December 25th. Also, oh, do I have to pronounce this? Oh gosh, there's no way. Huitzilothrapicha. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but sorry, this is a Mexican god. Jesus Christ, I happen to know how to pronounce that one. A Christian god. Major gods throughout history, myth and belief. Zeus, Jupiter, Odin, and Yahweh laid down rules of behavior for their followers through commandments or examples. Might there have been only one God whose message was attuned to the time and culture of the recipients as civilizations evolved, culminating in a Christian message of love, often ignored by Christians? Just asking. That one happens to be up on Christmas week in this calendar, actually, guys. So get over John.